welcome to AQL live stream again. Hi everybody, I'm Tom and this is Brian. He's our rope light expert. All week long we've been telling you problems we hear all the time and issues that we hear all the time, and we're just trying to answer them for you. They're here live and answering those questions. So today we're going to talk about something that it's not as common as what we've been talking about, but it is something that's confusing. So being able to physically look at it and see it, we feel is going to help you guys out a lot. So Brian, take it away.
All right, so today we're talking about the X's and the T's. And
when would people use those?
You got me. I mean, there's a lot of different, anytime they need to branch off and you want to go both directions, you can use a T. I will say a common question, I think before people see these, is a power cord does not attach directly to the T or to the X. Sometimes they think that a power cord is directly attached to it, and then that's how you branch off.
Right.
So now a way of getting away with that would be to cut a very small piece of rope light.
Right.
Use
it as a junction.
Use it.
So then nothing lights up, but you're still feeding from the center two directions, but that wouldn't light up if you didn't want it to.
Exactly. So that would be one way of doing that. But all different kinds of reasons. People have their reasons of why, what they're building and what they're making, and
you may want to come to some point and go have light going in 4 different directions, and power it from somewhere else, or you may want to go 3 directions and just have one power coming in. So, okay, it's design, which is unlimited.
Sure. So one of the main, I think what these were originally designed for is possibly like incandescent rope light.
Well, they've been around for probably 80 years. So yeah, I would guess LED rope light's been here for about 12, say 15 years into the industry. So yeah, they're not going to reinvent the wheel, right? Right.
So with incandescent rope light, it's AC current. So polarity means absolutely nothing. But with LED rope light, polarity means everything. So that's what the issue is here. For at least this has 3 ports here. So one of the 3 is going to be different than the other. Okay? So you have to pay attention to that. Same with the X. 2 are going to match and 2 are not. So 2 are the same, like say 2 A's and 2 B's.
So basically what you're saying is, for the layman that doesn't understand polarity is just a word to them. On AC, on all, okay, let's talk about all 120 volt, you've got a neutral and you have a common. You have a return and a forward. However you want to mount it, they can't cross. But with an AC current, it really doesn't matter. I can take and put power in one end, and it's going to loop through the series, and it's never going to cross. And it doesn't matter. I can plug it in to my socket this way, or I can flip it around and plug it in this way, and except that they've tried to make it better by now, giving it a little bit bigger size. It all stays the same. If you're plugging in a compressor, it's not going to spin the opposite way because you crossed your common and neutral. It's not going to happen. On AC, you have a common and a neutral, same thing, positive or a negative. They can't cross. But on the other hand, too, when you go to connect them together, if you do this, it won't work. You have to complete the same circuit, where with an AC, it's a loop and it always loops back on itself. So that, to help explain the polarity to them, is when you're going in one side here positive, it's got to continue positive all the way through that side. But when your rope light's getting plugged in, you're actually turning your over. So Brian will explain that a little bit better.
So with the T, all I did here was just to make it easier, I just cut off some of the sleeves here to make it shorter and easier to show you. T's, X's, doesn't matter which end you want to feed power from, all going to be the same. I'm just going to go ahead and plug this in. Now, I have a 50% chance, basically, of this lighting up or not lighting up. So let me
Power up?
no, let me just plug it in. Let me see how I do as far as my 50% chance. So I really don't know which end is supposed to go into this T right now with the way it stands. So I'm just gonna push this in here. I'm going to push this in here, make sure. I've already installed power connectors on both ends just to make it easier to show you. Go ahead, let's see if how well I did. Okay, so I got one wrong. So my power, this is obviously always going to light. Obviously, this configuration lines up with the other side of the T perfectly.
So you're on the right side of the
So
road.
I'm on the right side. So when something like this happens, all you need to do, unplug it.
Yeah, that means,
Yeah.
now you notice how we unplugged it before we had metal, touch metal?
That would have been bad. Okay, so I just unplug it and flip your rope light around, install another power connector, and plug it in. Okay, go ahead and fire that up. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. So the key in this situation would be before you actually mount all your rope light, fire it up. Make sure that you have the correct end inside the T or inside the X connector. Many, many times people have installed all their rope light and then turned it on only to realize that at least one leg doesn't light up. Big, huge waste of time right there, so it costs them a lot of money possibly. So there are some fixes when that happens, and we can show you a couple cheats. So,
And to make it clear, to understand what he means by being reversed, the T connector is designed with three things. It's all on one side, they're all connected together. But think about it, coming straight across my, let's just call positive and negative, they follow through, positive and negative. But I've got to make sure on the rope light, remember it comes on a reel, right, Ryan? Comes on a reel, and it's already got positive and negative going. And as I bring 20 feet off of this, and I cut it, my positive and negative stays the same. But if I was to take the end that I cut off, let's pretend like I cut this off, and this had the power cord on it, my positive and negative is reversed, right? Because if I now want to feed power on this, I'm feeding now what was positive is now this end, I've got to flip it over. And that's basically what he's saying. When you plug into a T connector or across with LED, you got to make sure the piece that you're extending, that you're plugging into the right side of the piece, not the right side of this. So hopefully that made it a bit clearer in layman's terms. Now you go ahead and tell them about some fixes.
well, let's say that we kind of made a mistake here, and we installed a bunch of rope light that we really don't want to uninstall, and we fired it up and it didn't work. Happens all the time, okay? So you've got a few options. Basically, you can take this piece down, flip it around, get it powered back up, and reinstall it. That'd be one option.
Yeah.
A couple options that we have for you is, instead of reinstalling it, possibly what you can do, which would work fine, is,
I've kind of pre-done it for you.
there you go.
Nope, you have the wrong
Flip it
piece.
around. But either way, yeah, it's this one.
Now, is there a way to tell without plugging it in? Or do you have to actually plug it
It's
in?
very complicated to actually show you. When I look at this T, the way I'm looking at it, the two holes are on my left. Okay, the holes in the connectors are offset to one side or the other. Okay, so the way I'm looking at this right now, these two holes are offset to the left. These two holes are offset to the left. These two holes are offset to the right. So depending on where I power, so if I'm powering it and it's offset to the left, this one and this one would line up and would be perfectly fine, and then this would be the one that I would have to flip around the opposite way. That's the easiest way I can explain.
So it's probably better to just plug it in.
Yeah,
quick.
I mean, we can start telling you that the diodes are all facing one direction. You know, when you look at this here, power's feeding this way, so it's actually current running that way. And all the diodes are on the far side of it. And if you can remember that, that's which way you feed it in to try to guess on which way to put your rope light in. Better to test it. But what Brian has is, we all know when we try to plug it in this side, nothing happened. Right? Polarity's reversed. So what I did was I took the power connector and I flipped it over. Now, when you do that, it's going to make it to be it's much wider, and it's going to make it kind of a booger to get that to fit down the pipe. It can be done, but it's a lot of work. What we would recommend doing, if you've got everything run already and you got to flip this over, is do what Brian did here to the T connector, cut off what you don't need, excess out of the way, run a piece of shrink wrap on each piece, right?
Yep.
That way there, when you go to put that in backwards,
it'll be a little easier. I'd also take and slice some of this off. So by all means, take a little razor knife or something, slice some of that disc out of there. It might be harmless. Yep. So that's going to make it easier to stick it in the sleeve. So this thing is actually installed backwards, okay? But we needed it installed backwards. Let's see here. And there you go. Now, you can also take a heat gun and heat this up. If you don't want to cut this sleeve, heat this up a little bit. It'll make it a lot more pliable, a lot more malleable, where you can actually insert it in there and make it a lot easier. So that's a fix.
yeah, that's a fix.
You put it in backwards, you don't want to
If
uninstall it.
Right. If you've already run it out and it goes and that happens, that's the best way to do it without, and like I said, you can trim down that plastic piece. It's not going to hurt anything. You can, it's so funny because the answers are right there and they're pretty simple. And it's logical. If I'm backwards, can I reverse it? Well, yeah. So basically all we're doing is we're turning those over. That's all we're doing. We took the rope light, instead of putting it in like this, we're actually putting the rope in like this, and we took the adapter and flipped it over so it would work. That's all we really did. So now this was supposed to be positive, it was on the wrong side, and we put it on the right side. You don't have to uninstall anything, and either use shrink wrap or, like you said, cut that down, heat that up, pliable. We always recommend, again, if this is an outdoor use, little silicone to keep the water out, never hurt. I don't even care if you buy these and you buy silicone and put heat shrink on it. It really doesn't matter. The more moisture you keep out of your rope lighter, the longer life it's going to have.
Absolutely. So I think that pretty much covers the T's and the X's. So that's the only ones that you have that issue with, T's and X's.
And L connectors doesn't matter. You're going to run it the way you're going to run it. But when it comes to even you buy a deluxe kit that has 6 or 5, you can make 5 different runs out of it, right? I've known guys that go out on the job site and they'll go, okay, I need a 20-footer over here and a 50-footer over here and another 30 over here, and they wheel it off, cut it, wheel it off, cut it, and they go out there, they get out there and they don't know which end to start with. So always keep in mind which way you're pulling off a roll. Don't pull them all, do one at a time. Then you know, I put it on, test it, I'm good, I run it out, I unplug it, I run out the distance I need, I cut it, I end cap it, plug it in to confirm it, put it into place.
There's times we custom cut rope light here all the time, so in situations like that, what I'll do is I'll mark it. I'll just take a little piece of tape, so that way if I'm running off 5 20-footers, I know I'll cut it, that's my end cap side, small piece of tape on the other one, that's where my power cord's going. Then I don't play games, I don't have to mess around, it's fast, quick, it's easy.
Right, yep, and it's because of it being polarity driven with being a DC power LED, it threw a little bit of monkey wrench into it, but it works out pretty well. Well, we didn't have any comments today, hopefully...
How many feet on average can you run on one power cord, regardless of T or X connectors?
We usually recommend that you stay below 200 feet.
on one power
Or
cord.
one power cord.
That being said, if you put an 8 amp, if you take that and let's say you're going 200 feet in each direction, math work real quick, yeah, that'll give us 200 feet in each, no, 150 feet. So we know that we can go 450 feet, no problem with this unit here. So let's just say you took 3 rolls and you put it on a T connector on each side and you plugged it into here. Now you're at 450 feet. This rectifier will override this rectifier, and you're fine.
Yep.
And you're fine. These don't have a limitation. These will go up to 600 watts or whatever the way these are made. There's no limitation to these. You're still limited on what your rectifier will do without voltage drop.